Clint Eastwood is widely recognized as one of Hollywood's most legendary figures. His tough, no-nonsense characters have graced the big screen for decades, cementing his place in cinematic history. However, behind his rugged exterior lies a heart filled with compassion and kindness. This story is a testament to that, showing a side of Eastwood that many may not have seen before, a man willing to step up and help when it matters most. It was an ordinary day when this extraordinary event took place. Eastwood was out for a walk near his home, enjoying the peaceful surroundings. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. The air was crisp and everything seemed calm. But as he strolled along the road, something unusual caught his eye. A small, struggling figure was limping near the roadside. At first, it was difficult to make out what it was, but as he walked closer, he realized it was a dog. The poor animal looked exhausted and in pain. Its fur was dirty, its legs wobbly, and its eyes filled with fear. It was clear that something terrible had happened to it. Many people might have simply walked by, assuming it was someone else's problem. But Clint Eastwood is not like most people. Without a second thought, he knew he had to step in. Approaching an injured animal can be difficult. Fear and pain can make even the gentlest of creatures act unpredictably. Eastwood understood this well. Despite his tough guy image, he had a deep respect for all living beings. He knew he had to be careful, so he moved slowly, making sure not to startle the dog. He knelt down a few feet away, speaking softly, trying to gain the dog's trust. The dog flinched at first, its instincts telling it to run, but its injuries prevented it from moving too quickly. Eastwood could see the hesitation in its eyes, but he remained patient. He reached out his hand, letting the dog take in his scent. His calm demeanor worked wonders. The dog slowly started to relax. After a few moments, Eastwood inched closer and carefully inspected the dog's condition. It had a wound on one of its legs, possibly from being hit by a car. It was weak and clearly dehydrated. The sight of the suffering animal struck a chord with him. He couldn't just leave it there. He took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around the dog, providing warmth and comfort. Slowly but surely, the dog allowed itself to be lifted. Eastwood held it securely, making sure not to worsen its injuries. He knew time was of the essence, and without hesitation, he carried the dog to his car, ready to get it the help it so desperately needed. Once inside the car, Eastwood wasted no time. He drove swiftly but carefully, knowing that every moment counted. The dog, now resting on the passenger seat, was still weak, but no longer trembling. It was as if it understood that it was finally safe. The drive to the nearest veterinary clinic felt long, though in reality, it was only a short distance. Thoughts raced through Eastwood's mind. Would the dog survive? Had he gotten to it in time? These questions lingered, but he stayed focused on the road. Upon arriving at the clinic, he rushed inside, carrying the injured dog in his arms. The veterinary staff quickly took over, assessing the animal's condition. They confirmed that the dog had indeed been in an accident. It had some bruising and a wounded leg, but thankfully no major internal injuries. With proper treatment, it had a good chance of making a full recovery. Eastwood sighed in relief. He had done his part, but he wasn't done yet. He stayed at the clinic waiting for updates, ensuring that the dog received the best care possible. The dog had been stabilized at the veterinary clinic, and Clint Eastwood, despite his busy schedule, made it a personal mission to check in on its progress. His concern was genuine. This wasn't just a passing act of kindness. He had formed a bond with the injured animal. Every visit to the clinic reinforced his connection, and as the days passed, he witnessed something remarkable: resilience. The dog, whom the clinic staff affectionately named Dusty, due to its dusty fur when Eastwood first found it, was responding well to treatment. The veterinarians had determined that while its leg was bruised and slightly sprained, there were no broken bones. However, the emotional scars of being abandoned or lost were another matter. Eastwood wasn't just worried about its physical health. He wondered about its past. Had it once belonged to a family that had lost it? Was it a stray, wandering alone its whole life? The thought of it being left to fend for itself, helpless and in pain, troubled him deeply. It reinforced his decision that Dusty would never be alone again. One day, As Eastwood walked into the clinic, Dusty's tail thumped against the side of its bed. It was a weak wag, but it was a wag nonetheless, a sign that the dog recognized him. It was a small moment, but one that spoke volumes. Eastwood knelt down, reaching out to scratch behind its ears. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" he said softly. Dusty responded with a slow blink, a silent show of trust. It was in that moment that Eastwood knew. He had to find this dog a home, whether with himself or with someone who could provide it with the love and care it deserved. However, the road to recovery wasn't just about physical healing. The dog had been through trauma, and the clinic staff advised Eastwood that it might take time for Dusty to fully regain its confidence. Some animals, after being injured or abandoned, carry psychological scars that don't fade overnight. Determined to help, Eastwood spent more time at the clinic, even helping to feed Dusty on some occasions. The once shy and hesitant dog started to open up, slowly regaining its appetite and energy. Each visit saw improvements. First, a little more strength in its step, then a longer wag of its tail, and eventually a soft nuzzle against Eastwood's hand. After a week, Dusty was well enough to leave the clinic. The veterinarian, impressed with Eastwood's dedication, asked, "So, what's next for him?" Eastwood didn't answer immediately. He had been thinking about this moment for days. Would he take Dusty home himself? Could he give it the attention it needed? Or was there someone out there who could provide the perfect home? In the days following Dusty's release from the clinic, Eastwood carefully weighed his options. He had already formed a deep attachment to the dog, but his lifestyle, constantly moving between film sets and projects, made him hesitant. He knew dogs needed stability, routine, and consistent companionship. Despite this, he couldn't bring himself to leave Dusty behind. So he decided to take the dog home with him temporarily, giving it a safe and warm place to stay while he figured out the best long-term solution. At first, Dusty was hesitant in its new environment. The large open spaces of Eastwood's ranch were a stark contrast to the clinic's enclosed walls. But over time, the dog started to adjust. It explored the land cautiously, sniffing the ground, wagging its tail more often. Eastwood found himself drawn into a routine, feeding Dusty, taking him for walks, and even talking to him as if he were an old friend. Dusty's transformation was remarkable. The once weary dog now had a sparkle in its eyes, a bounce in its step. One afternoon, Eastwood sat on his porch, watching the sunset with Dusty lying at his feet. The dog let out a contented sigh, stretching out in the fading warmth of the day. It was in that quiet moment that Eastwood made his decision. Dusty wasn't going anywhere. He was home. It was an unexpected turn of events, but Eastwood didn't regret it for a second. He had saved Dusty's life, but in some ways, Dusty had also given him something in return, a sense of fulfillment, reminder of the simple joys of companionship. Word of Eastwood's kindness spread, and soon media outlets picked up on the story. Many praised his actions, but for Eastwood, it wasn't about recognition. He hadn't done it for attention. He had done it because it was the right thing to do. When asked in an interview about why he took in the dog, Eastwood simply shrugged and said he needed help. That's all there is to it. Dusty's story resonated with many, inspiring people to show kindness toward animals in need. Donations poured into local animal shelters and rescue organizations saw an increase in adoptions. It was proof that one small act of compassion could create a ripple effect, touching lives in ways unimaginable. Over the next few months, Dusty settled into his new life with ease. He followed Eastwood everywhere, becoming a loyal companion. Whether it was resting by his side during quiet moments or trotting beside him on long walks, Dusty had found his place. One evening, as Eastwood sat on his porch, he looked down at Dusty, who was curled up beside him. The dog looked up, tail wagging slightly, as if understanding the significance of the moment. "You're a lucky dog," Eastwood mused, "but I think I'm a lucky one." And with that, the tough Hollywood legend and his rescued companion sat in peaceful silence, both knowing they had found exactly what they needed, each other. Clint Eastwood's story isn't just about rescuing a dog. It's about the importance of kindness, the power of a single act, and the unexpected ways in which life rewards those who choose compassion. In an industry often focused on fame, fortune, and spectacle, Eastwood's simple act of humanity stands as a reminder that true heroism isn't just about playing a tough guy on screen. It's about showing up when it matters, even when no one is watching. This story serves as a lesson for us all. There are countless Dustys out there, abandoned, injured, and waiting for someone to show them kindness. Maybe we won't all have a Hollywood legend saving the day, but we all have the power to make a difference in our own way. So, the next time you see an animal in need, remember this story. Remember that even the smallest gesture, offering food, helping an injured creature, or supporting a local rescue, can mean the world to someone who has nothing. In the end, what makes a person truly great isn't their fame or success, it's the kindness they show when no one expects it. Just like Clint Eastwood and Dusty, we all have the ability to be heroes in our own way.